times, and steps that we are taking to do. And Dr. Omar has been talking to us about the role of the occult and how do we recognize their influences. So today our focus is really on several, if you like, main players and characters, as well as the groups that they operate in. The itinerary for today, so inshallah we will begin with Dr. Omar after our dua. Just some housekeeping messages. The fire escape, there's one fire escape towards my right. As you go out, you can go right to the end on your right. In between the four lifts, there's also another fire escape. So, if anything, for safety reasons, you need to go. The toilets are also located towards the end, where I'm facing. There's two little corridors. There's the men and women on the right, and there's also men and women on the left. Any refreshments will be served outside. And we will be taking a break after the first session by Dr. Omar at about 10:30. Then we will proceed. Dr. Omar will start with his talk on titled From the Beginning to the End, the Archetypal Cult of the Truth's Subversion. We'll be then taking a break, and then we are proud to present one of our members today. If any of you were at the international conference last year, you will remember he's a bouncer. He's a guy who gets people to ask questions. If not, you can't get out of the room, kind of thing. So Encik Isham Kasim has been doing a lot of research, and he will share some of the research with us today. And then Dr. Omar will then round up the whole session by talking about the Fatimids and the crypto Jews. So, Hadi, maybe we can begin with the dua for today. This is my son, by the way.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma inna nastakhiruka bi'ilmak wa nastaqdiruka bi qudratik wa nas'aluka min fadlika al-'azim fa innaka taqdiru wa la naqdir wa ta'lam wa la na'lam wa anta 'allama al-ghuyub. Allahumma in kunta ta'lam anna hadha al-amr khayrun lana fi dina wa ma'ashina wa 'aqibati amrina فاقدره لنا ويسره لنا ثم بارك لنا فيه وإن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر شر لنا في ديننا ومعاشنا وعاقبة أمرنا فاصرف عنا واصرفنا عنه ونقدر لنا الخير حيث كان ثم أردنا به. ونعوذ بكلمات الله التامات التي لا يجاوزهن بر ولا فاجر من شر ما خلق وبرأ وزرأ ومن شر ما ينزل من السماء ومن شر ما يعرج فيها ومن شر ما ذرأ في الأرض ومن شر ما يخرج منها ومن شر فتن الليل والنهار ومن شر كل طارق إلى طارق يطرق بخير يا رحمن. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. والله منكم.
Thank you, Eddie. If you notice, the last part of the dua which I left on the screen is, as we go towards the end times and we're seeing the evils that's happening, we try to seek refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Little background to Dr. Omar before he starts. So, reading from the previous Insight International Conference. So he's a retired emergency room physician from Chester. Where's PA? Sorry.
Pennsylvania,
okay. Just south of Philadelphia. And now he currently is lecturing college in Sanya in Alostar on medical ethics. He was formerly ISTAC's Research and Publications Coordinator, also contributing editor to the quarterly bulletin, assistant editor to the journal Al-Sajara, and various other publications in English. He also undertook freelance edits for IIUM, IAIS, and Islamic Book Trust, and was a senior science editor for EQHO Communications Limited and International Translations Company in Bangkok since 2005. Prior to his conversion to Islam, or his reversion to Islam, in 2004, Dr. Zaid was an evangelical Christian missionary in Sarawak, East Malaysia, where he also farmed rice, fish, and poultry for 5 years while constructing a 10-acre sustainable homestead in the Dayak jungle. Some 50 odd kilometers outside Kuching. He has 2 sons there and 6 grown children in the States, as well as a daughter in Malang, Indonesia. He does research on church history, Gnosticism, the New World Order, mystery religions and fertility cults, the history of romantic societies, as well as human development and sexuality. In addition to several essays and monographs, he has authored Trinity, the Metamorphosis of Myth, The Hand of Iblis, Summary Observations on the Hidden Hand of the New World Order, The Forgotten Saints, The Gospel of Barnabas, Cain's Creed, The Cult of Rome, a deconstruction and revision of church history, and The Taqwa of Marriage, Essential Knowledge for Modern Believers. He is currently married to Mali Zaida Manawang, retired school teacher and classical Thai dance instructor from Payo, northern Thailand. And anyone who's been to our previous talks will be very familiar with Dr. Omar and his style. You know, he always gets us fired up, I think, you know, and moving us to action. The second speaker today was supposed to give me a biodata of him to be read out, but has not done so. So Hisham has been doing a lot of advisory work and research. He calls himself a history buff. And I think it's very interesting to listen from someone who has had a passion of looking, firstly, looking a lot into the role of dinar and dirham in the economy. But today, I think, with a special focus on the research that he's been only sharing with me, my sister, and my wife, who are the other team members of Insight, on a piecemeal basis. So we forced him, or goaded him to give this talk, and alhamdulillah, today he has agreed, and he's working on a book. We keep asking him about his book as well. So I appreciate if you all also keep asking him about his book, because we would be very, very interested in the sort of research that he's done, inshallah. So without further ado, I think we shall move on to the session number 1. So Dr. Omar Zaid, from the beginning to the end, the archetypal cult of the truth's subversion. Further.
Wow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all of you, and thank you for coming. It's good to see you. And I wish to take this opportunity before I start to say thank you very much for all of those who are here and who will listen to this presentation over the internet. Thank you for those of you in particular who have assisted me this last 5 to 6 months when I've been without salary. It's been a wonderful outpouring of help from the Ummah, and I'm just ever so grateful for you. And also to Imran Hussein, wherever you are now, Imran, we miss you. And we pray that Allah grant you a speedy and safe return to us here in KL. So let's get started with this. Now, I have given it another title because when we first, because when we first discussed this, it was, we had a brainstorming session and we came up with that title, and then after I started to prepare for it, I modified it a little bit. It's essentially the same theme. Simplicity versus confusion. occult aspects of the Great Divide. The Great Divide, that means there's a gap between truth and falsehood. And I'm going to try and explain some of those difficulties, some of the reasons why that gap exists, and how you can recognize it in the phenomena of human relationships, human behavior, whether it's politics, religion, doesn't make much difference what it is. So I just click right, there we go. Now, when you first start looking into this thing, and you often look into the various approaches to history, it's very frustrating, and you can wind up like this poor creature, just in a quandary, not knowing what to do. He's supposed to be flying through the air, but his feathers are all wet, and he can't get off the ground, and he's just had enough, okay? Yeah, I remember once I got caught in an undertow, and I was fighting it, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Okay, let's just go with it. I might as well give up now. So I stopped fighting it, and then I floated up to the surface, and I felt a bit like him. Whenever I looked into the Islamic history, or whatever the history might be, you can wind up feeling a bit like this creature here, flabbergasted, worn out, not knowing which way to go. So I'm going to try and sort some of that out for us here. Now, what we're confronting here is simplicity versus confusion, complexity versus chaos. Whatever the phenomena is, whether it's a scientific objective role, it doesn't make any difference in human behavior, especially in religion. Religion is based on a system of beliefs. Well, what do you believe? I don't know. What do you believe? I think you thought you believed that, but let me show you this, and then before you know it, you're not. I have interviewed many people over the years, especially when I was a Christian minister, and I've only to find out they don't know what they really believe. They believe it, but they don't know why. Yeah, and since becoming a Muslim, I found out that most Muslims, they read the Quran, but they don't comprehend it. They don't understand it. They haven't really studied tafsir. And they don't know anything about history. And when you don't know anything about history, you take things out of the element and you'll get lost. You're going to waters over your head. And if you can't swim, you can't tread water, you're going to drown. So simplicity, complexity, you might think complexity and simplicity are at odds with each other, but no, they're not. You can develop a consensus out of complexity through a simple analysis. You can differentiate, become scientific about it, and then this is what adab really is. Adab is naming a thing, putting it, whether it's a person, place, or thing, into its proper perspective, in its proper position, in historical terms or scientific terms. Confusion, chaos, what do you have? You have a lack of consensus, and what's the result? A lack of form, and it becomes stagnant. The society will stagnate. The civilization will stagnate. The body will stagnate. What is cancer? Cancer is chaos. It's a failure to differentiate. And when the cells do not differentiate, they stagnate and they reduce to a very, very primitive form, and they lose their function in the body. The same thing happens in society. It's tawheed. The same principles work everywhere. So when this reigns, confusion, chaos, lack of consensus, informed consensus, you wind up with strife, division, fitna. It's very simple. This is not this is not rocket science. It's very simple and straightforward. So, when we're looking at things that are simple, they might be complex, but you can have an integrated complexity, and you can then have the consensus of the wise over the meaning or the revelation of what is revealed, what is then elected to be true. Okay? Elected, that's consensus. So when you approach things scientifically, you have the consensus of the wise. This is not democracy. I hope you can understand me. Consensus of the wise. It's a limited democracy. It's reserved for the wise amongst you, the educated amongst you, not to make everybody's vote equal, because they're not. And it's un-Islamic. So democracy is another form of dynastic tyranny. Okay, that's what it is. When you equalize everybody and make everybody's vote equal, this is what you're doing. You're creating a tyrant. And then society becomes its own tyrant. Yeah. So when you have mystifying bewilderment instead of integrated complexity, you wind up with something that's hidden, something that's self-appointed. This is what happens. And it's happening now in the world because of this because of the dynastic tyranny of ideas which are un-Islamic. Liberty, democracy, freedom for all. These are false ideals. These have nothing to do with reality. Now, we're going to be discussing the Shia versus the Sunni thing, this great divide. And when we look at that, as we look at other dynastic histories throughout the world history, you find that there's several different genealogies, several different bloodlines. Okay? When you look at several different bloodlines, especially with the Shia, the Seveners, the Twelvers, whatever they are, you'll find that, well, there's 3 or 4 different bloodlines there. Well, they can't all be true now, can they? No. Somebody's wrong. And when something's wrong like that, that means that somebody's lying. And when people are lying, there can't be a genuine consensus. You'll have, the result is a dynastic tyranny. It's obfuscation. That means to deliberately create confusion so that your enemy cannot understand what it is you're trying to do. Chaos, confusion. This is self-appointed. When a leader wants to take control of a country, he will self-appoint himself. He'll create a false genealogy. And I'm not just talking about the Shia. This has been done all over the world. It doesn't matter what the religion, doesn't matter what the political persuasion is. So you have this versus authenticity, one authentic genealogy. These can all be true. Why? Because there's no authentic consensus here. You have sectarianism. That's the result. And you have sectarianism in the Sunni movement as well. You not only have it amongst the madhabs, you have it amongst the political persuasions. You have all kinds of Sunnis, and they're all vying with each other. Right now, they're killing each other, aren't they? That's not a consensus. That's strife. That's fitna. That's the result of somebody lying. Now, when we have consensus, we have legitimacy. We have a legitimately selected ruler who's subject to that consensus. All right? The ruler is subject to the consensus. The opposite is you have a mystifying bewilderment under the tyrant who creates the consensus out of myth. There's a big difference. Yeah? And it's very simple to understand. I tried to reduce this to simplicity here. So here you have what is revealed, what is elected by the wise, not by the ummah, by the wise who are appointed to rule over the ummah. They elect, and they form the consensus. Here, the consensus is created by virtue of a myth. Its secrets are hidden. It's self-appointed. All right? It's so mystifying, you throw you up, you wind up like that poor bird in the ocean. Oh, man, I can't understand this. It's so confusing. Yeah? That's what happens. Now, the selfless ruler versus the selfish tyrant. The selfish tyrant, he wants and demands power and control over others. The selfless ruler, he's legitimately selected. He does not desire this. He doesn't want the job. And any of you who have studied the life of our beloved prophet, you know this. He said it himself. The best ruler is the man who doesn't want the job. We all understand that. So the man who demands the job, he's the liar. It's not difficult to understand. The man who's running for the office, I doubt his legitimacy. I doubt his authenticity. I doubt that he is being guided by Allah. The legitimate ruler, the selfless ruler, will withdraw from the position of power over another. When he's rejected by the people, this is a loss of consensus. Example, Prophet Noah. He was rejected by his people. So what did he do? He withdrew. This is a principle of the caliphate, actually. That's what it is. So if you don't have a legitimate caliphate, you can only have an illegitimate caliphate, run by people who are maintaining their position at all costs, including mass murder of power and control over the polity. This is very simple to understand. This is not complicated political science. It's basic common sense. Simplicity versus confusion. Fitra versus fitna. Common sense versus strife. Very simple. So when something's wrong, when there's fitna, when there's strife, that means something illegitimate is taking place. And it is our job as Muslims to practice adab. That means to identify what's wrong and correct it. That is not taking place now in the Ummah. Everybody's following the democratic process, which is un-Islamic. Simplicity. With simplicity, you get an integrated complexity. This is scientific. You can define it. This is adab. This is an extension of your fitra. It's an extension of common sense, what Allah has placed in us from before we were born. When this happens, you get education, knowledge, authenticity, consensus, satisfaction. Not egalitarianism, satisfaction. That is equanimity. That's a sense of peace and security. Yeah? And this leads to a sense of achievement, real progress. All from adab. Harmony, understanding. It is defensive. This position is defensive only. It's not offensive. There's no force in religion. It's not offensive. Harmony, progress. It protects. This system protects. This is authenticity. This is what the husband does with his family, with his wife, with his children. When it's lacking, he's not authentic. He's being illegitimate. Okay? And don't give me this feminism crack. The women cannot do it. If you don't believe me, buy my book, The Taqwa of Marriage. It's clear, very clear there. They cannot do it. Okay, now, confusion. Babel. That's where we get the term Babylon. Babylon. The mother of all harlots in the Christian literature. The harlot is unfaithful. The harlot does not obey fitra, does not obey the divine order. She has many husbands, which means she has no husband at all. It's called Babylon. The mother of myth and mysticism, confusion. Falsehood, pretense. Falsehood, people who maintain their power and control over others by virtue of myth and mysticism and falsehood. Here's a rule that I made years ago, before I was a Christian minister, before I became a Muslim. The greater the pageantry, the greater the pomp and circumstances, the greater the myth, the greater the lie. This is a one-to-one correlation. No matter where you are, the greater the hypocrisy. Pretense foments fitna. What do you get? The exact opposite of the previous slide. Instead of getting education and achievement, you get knowledge or worldview is incomplete or it's mixed with falsehood, secularism, secular materialism, humanism, superstition. All of this leads to strife and war. It's inevitable. Results? Obfuscation, mystery, secrets. And in particular, when we talk about the Shia, we're talking about occultation, something that's hidden. Yeah? I'm telling you, this is a direct giveaway, whether you're looking at the Shia or any other people who are making this claim. Oh, you're just not educated, you can't understand yet. The mystery is hidden. Later you'll understand. Yeah? Whenever somebody's saying that, they are illegitimately trying to take power and control over your soul, your mind. It's a political move. Mystery, secrets. Why? Because they want dynastic tyranny to give progress and benefit only for the elite. This system gives rise to what the scripture calls, whether it's in the Quran or in the Judeo-Christian scripture, this phrase is still used, the kings of the earth. The kings of the earth. They ascend when brainwashed nation disobeys the authentic leader. It causes defeat. When you obey the myth, when you obey the liar, you are causing the defeat of your nation. That's what happened when Ali gave the order to attack Muawiyah, and his men refused. They disobeyed a legitimate order, and they lost the battle, and ultimately lost the war, and led to the downfall of Ali. It wasn't because the Sunni were better, it was because the Ummah disobeyed the legitimate ruler. And when that happens, what happens is this: you lose the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. Is that clear? Very good. Okay, what does pretense do? This is the trick of Iblis. He did this in the garden. He said, oh, Allah doesn't really mean that. This is what he means. Okay? Now, when you read something that is revealed knowledge, you get an instinctive response to it. You say, oh my gosh, did Allah say that? Wow, okay. Then Iblis comes along and says, that's not what he really means. I'll tell you what he means. There's something hidden in the meaning, okay? And if you stick with me, come on, I'll show you what it is. Because I know more than you. That's Iblis. It's a ploy. Tyrants, they create a pseudo-scientific dialogue that is so complex that he ascends over those who fail to comprehend its terms. He solicits followers who think they understand. Okay? So they create a whole new dialogue, and they explain it to you, and you follow them. This is the beginning of false religions, political systems, falsehood, pretense. This, in the ancient world, is called the Sumerian swindle. That's where the Jews learned it. The Sumerian swindle. The land of Sumer, the worldview, secular materialism, economic theory based on riba. This is a ploy of Iblis, based on riba. Their school of economics now is so complex, you go into there, it's like becoming a lawyer. It's so complex, you come out, you can't understand it. Oh, he's got a PhD in riba. I mean, he PhD in economics. Huh? Yeah, that's economic theory based on riba only for the educated. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not a doctor of economics, we can't hire you, sorry. You don't understand riba well enough. All right? That's what's happening, even in the world of Islamic finance. Superstitions, vain, ritualized entertainments. Football is a vain, ritualized entertainment. That's what it is. These are used to gain control over the masses, mental and material enslavement. That's what's taking place there. This is what happens when Iblis convinces the tyrant to take over power. It's a maintenance. These are systems of maintenance for the dynastic elitist tyranny. It requires updated myths based on the ancient mystery religions. Now, I'm going to explain that in a little bit. Update. The basic system is always there. The basic hardware, the basic software for the system has been there for thousands of years, but it needs update every once in a while because fashions change, even though human nature doesn't. So when the fashion changes, they update the software, but they use the same old myth. Again, obfuscation, mysteries, lies, wealth confiscation by the elite. That's what it's for. To steal your wealth. That is the Sumerian swindle. And they not only steal your wealth, but they steal the way you think. It creates bias so that you begin to behave in accordance with what benefits them rather than what benefits you. Matter of fact, you don't even know what's not benefiting you. You think that it is, but it's not. That's what happens when we go to McDonald's. McDonald's is owned by Zionists, you know. But everybody likes to go to McDonald's, right? Well, is the food good for you? No. Scientifically proven it's not. All right? That's just a small example. There are many, many more. Immunizations, fluoride in the water, fluoride in your toothpaste. Yeah? There's nothing scientific about it. It's not good for you. It's the exact opposite. But they have controlled your mind already through propaganda and through publicity, right? You watch TV? That's how they do it. Control of power for capital punishment, mass murder, and ritual sacrifice. Examples, the Holocaust, Lusitania, the sinking of Lusitania for World War I. That was a ritual sacrifice, and it was all a lie. Pearl Harbor, 9/11. These are ritualized sacrificial rituals which are used to mobilize mind control so that people begin to behave in a pattern that benefits only the myth, only the tyrant, only the suggestion made by Iblis. None of it is authentic, except the fact that it happens. This is what takes place. Mental and material enslavement as a result of the Sumerian swindle. Okay. Oops, wrong one. Now, I've said all of that just to introduce this theme. Now, if you've heard me speak before, or if you've read some of my books, welcome, brother. Wassalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. Brother Omar is here. I've never met you before, but okay. Now, the archetype blueprint for subversion. That's what we're going to talk about here. Now, this is coming based on the scriptures and what little there is that we can correlate with history. The curse of Cain. Now, remember, I told you in the beginning, we're going to discuss this gap, the gap between truth and falsehood. What's in the middle is the curse of Cain, the gap. Moses described the origin of every false creed in the 4th chapter of Genesis. The entire chapter is devoted to Cain and the narrative of the first recorded sectarian murder and its dire consequence. Cain killed Kabil in the Arabic, right? Kabil kills his brother as a furious result of religious envy. He remained unrepentant despite a personal admonishment from Allah, and he was subsequently banished from Eden as a punishing respite. That's what happens in a nutshell. Conditions of his exile were severe. His husbandry was cursed so that the earth would no longer respond to his hand and provide its food, its fruit. He was banned from the face of Allah so that authentic spiritual fellowship with our Creator was no longer possible. He was condemned to the life of a fugitive and a vagabond. He was appointed to rule over sin. He was somehow branded so that men would be afraid to kill him. This is all the curse that was placed upon Kabil. Now, this is a graphic description of what came to be known and in the history as the barbarian kings or the chief bandits, the chief thieves, or the kings of the earth. These are the sultans of plunder. They are enemy to all who pursue the agrarian path of domestic peace, which is husbandry, the shepherd. Why? At the foundation of all cultivated society stands the rock of husbandry. The rock of husbandry. Taking care of the dunya, taking care of the deen. Yeah? Cain, Kabil, was transformed to his own worst adversary, and accordingly so to all men. The Old Testament thereafter takes great pains to repeatedly describe such men as kings of the earth. And we know from the Quran that in the end, on the last day, Allah will hold all in his hand and say, where are the kings of the earth? Where are they? Now, Cain's curse is the perfect formula for dynastic polities of vain religious persuasion. They are governed by privateers who use mystery religions, the occult societies who prevail upon Orwellian worker bees, that's us, to feed their greed and selfishness. This is material hedonism. They rely upon us. Unless they are stopped by righteous men and women with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the Prophet and companions is. This is what Ali was trying to do. He was trying to stop it. And his own people refused his order to attack. Why? They refused his order to attack because some Jew said, oh, don't attack. They got the Quran hanging from their spears. It's an insult to Allah if you attack that. That's a superstition. The Quran is not the book. The Quran is in the heart. That book is just a piece of paper with words written on it. If you need to destroy the book to destroy the enemy, do it. Allah said, attack. They stopped. Superstition. The devil won that war for that reason. This formula permits illegitimate leaders to enjoy regency over self-engendered sin while leisurely living from the riba, the usufruct of other men. That's what it permits. That's basically what's taking place in the world today. It's very simple. This is not rocket science. Being cut off from Allah's face in exile refers to a complete lack of inspirational provision or guidance from heaven. It's an abject blindness to revelation. There's no more inspiration, no more revelation through dreams. It doesn't happen to Cain. People who follow this system, they are subject to an excommunication from the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't get informed anymore about the truth. They've rejected it because Allah has rejected them. So Cain had to rely solely on his memory of Eden and his relationship to Satan, sin, for all inspiration and guidance, which means what? He had to make up his own religion. That's what it means. That's what took place. But these speak evil of those things which they know not. Revealed knowledge. They don't know it anymore. But what they know, materialism, as brute beasts, in those things they corrupt themselves. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Kabil, in the way of Cain, and they have ran greedily after the era of Balaam for reward. Who's Balaam? The Bomo. Sorry, folks. I've told you many times, stay away from your Bomos. Stay away from them. Because they're part of this system. They're part of this curse. Oh, but they're so nice. They make you feel good, don't they? Yeah? It's mumbo jumbo. And they're working with the jinn. Oh, yeah, but they're a good jinn. Yeah? So what? Did Allah put you here to have a rule over the jinn? No, He put you here to take care of your family. Right? Leave the jinn to themselves and to perished in the gainsaying of Korah. Who was Korah? The political opposition leader to Musa. So the opposition leader got together with the Bomo and they created the present-day New World Order. That's it, folks. That's what's taking place now. It's very simple, and it's all in the Scripture. It's not difficult to understand. For those of you for those of us who accept the reality of revealed knowledge. It's very, very easy. After his exile from paradise, Iblis had the preeminent role as the originator for organized false religions. From Iblis comes the inspiration. He's the adopted father for all spiritual exiles from guidance. This is why Isa himself called the scribes and Pharisees sons of Satan. No, they're not literal sons of Satan. They're followers of Satan. That's what sons here means, followers. And referred to the uncircumcised as Satan's dogs. The dog follows him, looking for the bones, looking for the scraps left over from the table. Disease of the heart, reprobates, people abandoned by God, the uncircumcised. Not the uncircumcised of penis, the uncircumcised of heart. They've got a heart disease. That's what this is about. So where did Cain go? He had to go east of Eden, over here. Way over here, Pakistan, India. This is Eretz Israel. This is what they're trying to restore, not just Palestine. Why? Because they want Babylon over here. They want Babylon. Because the Jews lived there for 1,500 years, and that's where they got the Kabbalah. That's where they received all the doctrines of the ancient Persian kingdom, which was completely and totally heathen and pagan. The Jews learned magic here. Then they brought it back. They want it back. That's why they're pushing and pushing and pushing. All of this is in the scripture. But most of you don't know what came before, did you? I did. That's the advantage I have as a Christian minister who became a Muslim. I knew what came before. Now, this is the Shia land bridge. It follows the same demarcation, doesn't it? It's the same boundary. The same boundary. The current Shia land bridge, as seen by geopolitical analysts, approximates the extended borders of Greater Israel. When Cain went east, he settled here in the place where they started worshiping the phallus, the man's penis. That's what it is. That's their ancient mystery religion. It's all based on the sexual unity between the male and the female. This is an ancient Dravidia. They did all sorts of horrible things. They performed human sacrifice, blood rituals. They used to go around taking the man's head off. They would eat the muscles of the face, keep the tongue, dry it out in the sun, and hang it around their neck. And they say, oh, I've got the spirit of this dead man now. He's going to help me on the next hunt. Yeah? They were Bomos. The whole civilization filled with Bomos who practice this kind of witchcraft. That's what it is. Cain went here. The oldest civilization that we find where they actually had paved streets, we're going back 10,000 years ago, 7,000 to 8,000 years BC. They're there. But most people don't know about them. So Cain brought this religion back east to Babylon. His children did. You don't believe me? Yeah. This is the modern phallic worship. That's what it is. Here's the ancient form. Look, the Egyptians doing it. It's taken from the Egyptian hieroglyphic walls on their tombs. Notice the hand gesture. Here's a Catholic monk. This is an Egyptian item that represents a sexual union. Look what they put it right over his head. You see? This is all ancient mystery religion, worship, ritualized as part of the lie, as part of the manufacture, updated myth. Washington Monument. Here's one outside the Israeli Supreme Court. This represents the male penis. That's what it is. There's no doubt about it. This is in the St. Peter's Square. That was Pharaoh's. That one belonged to Pharaoh, that one. Yeah? Representative of God, the Pope? I don't think so. I don't think so. Here they are again. Now, who is this? This is the risen Christ. Look at the hand gesture. Huh? Again, look at the hand gesture. Again, the hand gesture. Hand gesture. The prince and his wife, hand gesture. What are they doing? This is all pagan heathen worship. That's what it is. This is the modern myth. It's been updated. And it's not just Catholic. These are not Catholics. But they're submitted to the Pope. Their mother is submitted to the Pope. She's a Dame of Malta. The Maltese members of the Knights of Malta, they all take an oath to serve the Pope. Okay, so chief pirate, Cain, murdering his brother. The first crusade, that's what this is. This is called the Catholic action, where they actually take action to go outside of their boundaries and overcome their enemies. When push comes to shove, this is what they do. And here are their supplicants, the Bushes and Clintons, at the feet of a dead pope here. Why would they attend? I mean, who's the pope to them? Huh? You need to think about that. If you want to know more about it, read my book, Cain's Creed. It's all in there. Tony Blair, who's his boss? This guy. Not the Queen. Jesuit. This is the crusade. The war against terror is going to take a while, you see. Who said that? This fellow. After the lie of 9/11, they blamed it all on the Muslims. Muslims had nothing to do with it. They are liars. They create the myth, and every myth, every mythical religion, political and otherwise, has to have a sacrifice at its offering at the beginning. 9/11 was a sacrifice. It was a blood sacrifice. So, Cain's curse, his husbandry is cursed. He becomes a parasite. He's banned from Allah. He has to create his own religion. He's a homeless pirate. He's a vagabond. He then is appointed to rule over sin. Kings like to rule over sin. They like it. Royalty, kings of the earth, everyone's afraid to kill him because they're afraid. The Bomo, they're afraid to kill the shaman. Righteous men aren't. Remember when Khalid went back to the temple of the Black Virgin and he slew the black woman? Yeah, he was afraid, but he killed her anyway, didn't he? Huh? We let them live. Now, Babylon, home of the double eagle, the cult of the serpent dragon, Lagash. Abraham's city, Maria, name of the ancient Portuguese goddess, latest headquarters of Basra, the Brethren of Purity, part of the Ishmaeli cult. This is all Babylon. This is where the religion from Dravidia was brought west, on its way to Palestine. This was about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Now, how does it relate to us now? Well, we have Islamic symbols and Christian symbols, apparently, that are related to the ancient myth. All right, from Sumer, from Babylon. This star, well, this is the British flag. That's what it is. That's what it is. The phalanx is there, the Washington Monument, the star on the Christmas tree. This is where it comes from. It comes from ancient Sumer, ancient Acadia. Star and crescent, that's where it comes from as well. It has nothing to do with Islam. It was not an Islamic symbol until the Ottomans brought it in about 500 years ago. They used it as a battle flag. It's not Islamic. It's all part of the ancient mystery religions, you see? So you see how they've got you herded using the myth to serve them and put your life and your children and all of your well-being into their hands. That's what they've done. Now, worldly affairs administered by Cain's creed, these are sociopaths. Selfish one, he murdered his brother out of jealousy, out of envy, out of selfishness. So they have to create a false religion. This is what they did. The three kings is part of the star system of Sirius. It's best seen at Christmas time. This is the birth of the god sun, the winter solstice, and this is all associated with the star and crescent. This is called the right-hand path of Satanism. It's exotericism rather than esotericism. Only the people who study these things are esoteric. They understand the hidden meanings. Okay? But even the hidden meanings have nothing to do with the kingdom of Allah or the cause of Allah in the earth. They have everything to do with the cause of Iblis. So the Christians are totally committed to Christmas. Okay? It's an ancient mystery religion based on astrotheology or occult knowledge. It's institutionalized exotericism. This is the right-hand path of Satanism. The right-hand path of Satanism is when you get all of the cattle, the goy, the non-Jews, to sit down in church on Sunday and listen to the priest tell you what God really said. Yeah? And give him your money. And then through him, give your allegiance to the political leaders. Same thing is happening in Islam under this banner. Same. There is no difference, my friends, my brothers and sisters. It is the same system of magical mind control. Networks of sociopaths, selfish control of others, conspiracy, you bet. Left-hand path of Satanism, these guys, these are the Magi. They know what's going on. They create these symbols. Here's the sun god. Here's the lambs of God that were sacrificed for the ancient sun god. The result of this system is permanent war. Sociopaths do not follow fitra. But non-sociopaths, you try to follow your fitra, and you wind up looking like that poor, worn-out, wet bird, floating on the surface of the water when he should be flying. Why? Because your position in the cause of Allah is compromised and you don't know it. You don't know what happened. What happened to my fitra? What happened to my heart? Why am I suffering this tension, this nervous anxiety? What's taking place? I'll go to the doctor, take another Valium, take another pill. That will help you. That's modern medicine. It's not the cure. Sun god, sun god, sun god. Worshipping, ancient worship, sun god. That's what this is. British cross, yes. Yes, that's what it is. Yes, my brothers and sisters, that's what it is. Da, 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 da. Yeah, you're following the British system? Fools. You've been fooled. I'm sorry. And I make no apology about that statement. That's the truth of it. The Shia, this is what they do on the day of Karbala. Is this Islamic, my friends? No. Did not our prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, did he not forbid this? Yes. Are the leaders of that country permitting it? Yes. Do I have to say anything more? No. Why do present-day leaders in the lands of the east of Eden permit this savagery in the name of Islam? I think I've already given you the answer, right? You already know why. These people are mind-controlled. Catholics do the same thing amongst the Jesuits. They put a hood over themselves. Isn't that what they do, the same thing down in Guantanamo Bay to the prisoners? Huh? Are they not prisoners of a lie? Yes. They're captive. They're held captive. Why? Because of passion and because of feeling, but not because of understanding, not because of insight, not because of clarity, because of ignorance. And they like it. Makes them feel manly. Huh? Real men can make themselves bleed for God, for Hussein, for Ali, for Fatima. Huh? Yeah. They might as well be Catholics. The initiatic journey to Islamic soil has been a repeated theme of European esotericism ever since the Knights Templars settled in Jerusalem and the mythical Christian Rosencrantz learned his trade in Damcar, Damascus. Oh, we find it in the lives of Paracelsus, Cagliostro. As they traveled easier, they all went east and they visited with so-called pseudo-Sufis. Sufis. Yeah, there's all kinds of Sufis, you know. All kinds. Are they all authentic? No. Are they all legitimate? Yes. Some are legitimately for evil, some are legitimately for good. Okay? Now, perennialism. René Goran, he was a Sufi. He's the father of perennialism. Perennialism brings in the ancient mystery religion right into Islam in the 20th century. That's what it is. Religio perennis, it's called. Universalism. All bunch of ancient Hindu nonsense in that teaching. Baal Shem, high priest of the Kabbalah, Cagliostro, he's one of them. Of this initiation system that was started by the Ishmaelis. But did the Ishmaelis really start it? No, it predates them. It goes back to Sumer. It's part of the Sumerian swindle. The Ishmaelis are just blindly following. That's what's taking place. Gerard de Nerval was of the opinion that secret Islamic communities, principally the Druze, the Ishmaelis, and the Nusaris, have been responsible for transmitting ancient wisdom to Europe through their influence on the Knights Templar. All right? This is by one of the occult historians. And I have many, many references that concur with this. Many. They're in my books. All are central to New Age doctrine, esoteric Christianity, Gnosticism, Freemasonry, and the Kabbalah. The central doctrine is Illuminism. We're going to tell you what's hidden. And once you know what's hidden, you become one of the enlightened ones. Yeah? And if you follow me, son, I'll make you the next president of the United States. Yeah? Yeah? That's what they did to Obama. That's what they did to him. Does Obama know what he's doing? No. He's an enlightened pawn. Pawn, that's what he is. He's a pawn in the game, just like Hitler was. Hitler was also a pawn. As powerful a man as he was a pawn in the game played on the chessboard of the Magi. I'll show you how it's played. Then we'll stop here. This is Boy Scouts. About Boy Scouts. This comes from ancient Egypt, but does it really? This is the fleur-de-lis. It's a symbol used by the Jesuits. It's a symbol used by the king, the House of Britain. It refers to ancient Sumeria. It's an ancient occult symbol based on the lily. It only grows in the mountains outside of Sumeria, in the mountains of Zagros Mountains. It does not grow in Egypt. But these temples are from Egypt 200 years before. Alexander brought the mysteries there with respect to this. And what do they do? Well, it's part of the Boy Scout badges now. You put your children in the Boy Scout, this is what they're learning. They're learning to accept the stages of initiation. The first thing the British did when they took over the Egypt was make the king the #1 Boy Scout. He became Botus, Boy Scout. He became the prima donna of the Boy Scouts in Egypt. Is that Egyptian? Is it Islamic? No. It's completely and totally Western, and it's dedicated to the ancient mystery system, which is essentially the occult system of the Kabbalah through by virtue and means of Sumeria to Babylon. This is all part of the ancient mystery religion, and it's here today and present in your children who have submitted themselves to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Guides. They are being brainwashed. You got a first degree Boy Scout, second degree Boy Scout, third degree, then you become an Eagle Scout. And then by the time they graduate high school and gone into university, if they're really smart, they say, hey, why don't you come work with me, son? I work for the Secret Service. Yeah. You're very smart, you know. We've been watching you. Yeah, that's what they do. And he's a good Boy Scout. He said, oh, wow, I'm really special. Maybe I can get another badge.